Great to see you. And before I go any further, let me say congratulations. You and Alan and Mark and the paralegals have really helped bring balance back to our justice system over the last 3 years. Thank you for that.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Ezra. And I noted you mentioned we've got over 2,000 matters. I can tell you it's now well over 2,500. I've had a conversation very recently with our lead paralegal for Ontario, and she's given me an updated her updated numbers, and we're looking at well over 2,500 matters
That's incredible.
that we've been able to assist people with.
Some of these include, just anti-gathering laws. Some of them people not 6 feet. Some of them are mask cases. Some are ArriveCan app cases. Tell me some of the other. Some of them are criminal charges for
That's right.
involving give us a sample of some of the cases the Democracy Fund is fighting.
No, you're right. We've I want to lay out there just to show that our success. We have been able to save Canadians over $12 million to date as a result of our efforts against these fines. With respect to if you're, we've got as I said, 2,500. The vast majority there, Ezra, is our ticket-related matters. Like you pointed out, these are social gathering tickets that were issued during the lockdowns and during these mandates that were implemented prior to them being lifted. But also we've got the Quarantine Act tickets that we've been facing, which are border crossing, typically border crossing. We've got hundreds of them in Ontario, obviously. 200, I can tell you alone, as I've had carriage of them alone in British Columbia. So this is something that we've been pursuing. I can tell you with respect to the British Columbia files, we've received 100 withdrawals of the over 200 matters that we've taken on to date. So as it stands, I hope that gives our donors some confidence in the work that we're doing and the effort that we're putting into these. We do have a good record of success there. You touched on criminal matters. We took on at the outset. Well, I guess let's rewind a little bit. We were there in Ottawa. The Democracy Fund. All three of our lawyers were there for 6 days during the protests as charter scrutineers. We were there to provide legal information to individuals who were peacefully protesting and make them aware of what their rights were. Subsequent to those events, as we saw, the Emergencies Act was invoked. The arrests were made in. We can get into that, I guess, a little bit later. But there were a number of arrests made, and we have been retained by about 30 individuals, give or take, including our external counsel, for those arrests. And I should tell you, Ezra, I don't want to drone on too long here, but we've received 7 stays to date, and one withdrawal, which actually occurred this week in relation to an individual who was charged with mischief and disobey lawful court order for peacefully protesting in Windsor. He was facing 45 days in jail. We were able to, through our efforts, point out to the Crown that there was a lack of prospect of conviction, and the Crown ultimately, because of the strength of our case, because of our efforts, was forced into a position to agree and withdrew actually just this past Wednesday.
Wow. Now, you said so many things, and I've been taking notes. First of all, I'm glad you told me we have 2,500 cases. And when I say we, it's because I'm a supporter and a volunteer. I'm not an officer or a director, an employee, but I have a great affection for the project, and and I believe in it. And of course, it's our Rebel News donors who have breathed life into it. So that's why I speak in the first person when talking about it. But as I mentioned earlier, it is an arm's length organization, separate board of directors, separate bank accounts, separate everything from Rebel News. Now, you mentioned 2,500 cases. That's incredible. You said that in BC, if I heard you right, there's 200 cases, but 100 of them have been withdrawn. Withdrawn. Did I hear that right?
You did, yes. So,
So that means that the police and the prosecutors say, "Oh, we're not going to actually follow through with it." Is that what that means, to be withdrawn?
yeah, that's exactly right. So the tickets have been canceled, right? So we were actually look, and it's difficult because the Crown is under no obligation to provide you with reasons as to why a ticket has been withdrawn. They can just withdraw. They don't have to give you any explanation
So
subsequent
it's
to that.
just you get a letter one day, it's withdrawn. They didn't say it's because it was too much hassle. They were worried about losing. They didn't have the manpower to prosecute hundreds of cases. They realized that the police overcharged and it was a foolish. So there could be any reason. What do you think the reason was for half the tickets in BC to be withdrawn? Is it just simply the prosecutors have more important things to do?
Well, look, I hope they do. Is part of my answer to that question. I hope they do have more important things to do, as these are federal prosecutors. These are people who are charged with the very important task of prosecuting individuals who are trafficking in illicit substances, among other things. But when it comes to these particular withdrawals, I have a hunch, Ezra, and I believe it is because our legal team here, and specifically actually our litigation director, Alan Honor, was able to point out the fact that a number of these charges were resulting from violations that predated a declaration made by the health minister. It gets into a rather complicated area of law, but the order in council, just to try and give it a very brief overview, the order in council here specified, and the orders in council specified that the health minister or the health minister's delegate was to instruct as to the electronic means that should be filled out when crossing the border. This electronic means since has been declared to be the ArriveCan app, right? So, however, this was not announced as far as our records are concerned, as far as what I'm seeing on their website, until November 26th of 2021. So all of the tickets that were in relation to failure to comply on an ArriveCan app basis to November 26, 2021, our position was these tickets are bunk because the law is incomplete. You don't have a health minister or a health minister's delegate stating that this law has been declared.
So let me just pause for a second. So you're saying that the ArriveCan app, which was this odious, privacy-busting, share the data with the World Health Organization malware, awful app, everyone hated it, barely worked, but mostly it was an imposition. You were forced to give your health info. You're saying that until that date, November 26, 2021, it actually hadn't been given the authorization by the health minister or the delegate of the health minister that any charge before that, ArriveCan wasn't an official thing. It wasn't the government thing. It was out there. The app was out there. We've since learned how corrupt the bidding process was to make it. So any charge before November 26, 2021, the ArriveCan app simply was not the law. So cops might have said, fill it out. Airport busybodies might have said, fill it out. The media might have said, fill it out. But there was no legal requirement to fill it out till November 26, 2021. So any charges before then are empty. Did I hear you right? Did I restate it correctly?
You did, and you heard me correctly, Ezra. That's certainly our position.
That was an excerpt from the Ezra Levant show. I'm Ezra Levant. Every weekday, I do a monologue about the topic of the day. Then I interview a fascinating guest, either in studio or via Skype. And then I read your mail, whether it's fan mail or hate mail, which is sometimes even more interesting. This is on our premium service, though, called Rebel News Plus. Go to rebelnewsplus.com. It's $8 a month or less if you buy a whole year in advance. You get my show every weeknight, plus Sheila Gunn Reid's show every week. It's called The Gun Show. It's pretty amazing. You know, we rely on you because we do not take a dime from the government. In Canada, that makes us almost unique. So please help us out and help yourself to some great journalism at rebelnewsplus.com.